Hello again. In this video, I want to talk to you about how to use your first 2 hours when researching a topic in music history. If you're a music history student at a university in the United States and you have to do a research project, it can be confusing as to how should I go about researching a topic. Let's say you have a topic that you are just now looking into. What steps can you take at the very beginning to make your research efficient, make it effective, and really get off on the right foot as you start your major research project? So in this video, I'm going to give you 7 steps to take in the first 2 hours of your research on a new topic so that you can get started on the right foot and really feel like you're standing on solid ground as you begin your music history research project. Here are the 7 steps. Step 1 is to organize your files. This is so that you can set up a place to capture all of the bibliographic information, the notes, and the sources that you will be collecting. Step 2 is to read about your topic in your textbook and find where it lands in your course schedule. Step 3 is to consult a reference article on your topic and to collect all relevant sources that are included in that article. Step 4 is to consult the For Further Reading section of your textbook and collect all relevant sources listed there. Step 5 is to collect 30 sources on your topic, and these together, the sources from the reference article, from the For Further Reading section, and then from this bibliographic sprint, will form your preliminary or working bibliography on your topic. And for this step, I have a whole separate video, so I'll go into much more detail about that step in that other video. Step 6 is to go to your library website and order any books that are not in your library. Step 7 is to evaluate your topic at the end of this process for its feasibility and then adjust as necessary. So in the remainder of this video, I'm going to walk through each step in more detail. At the end of the video, you will be ready to go out and do your own research. All of this information is also provided in written form on my website. I'll link to that below. That way, as you're going through this process, you don't have to refer to the video, you can just refer to that article. It might be a little bit simpler that way. So make sure you find that link down below. And with that said, let's dive in. Step 1 is to organize your files to collect bibliographic sources, research notes, and PDFs of articles that you find. It's really important to get your organization set up at the beginning so that as you're searching, you have somewhere to place all of what you find. You're going to be finding lots of bibliographic references, you're going to be finding books, maybe articles and other sources, and you want to have a place to put them. So the first thing I would do is to pull up your reference manager software. The one I use is Zotero, and it's a free bibliographic reference manager system. If you don't know what a reference manager is, that's okay. You can either search it online or you can skip that step and just create copy and paste the bibliographic entries instead of putting them into a reference manager. But if you're up for it, I would recommend downloading and using a reference manager. In Zotero, you want to create a new folder, it's called a collection in Zotero, where you can place all of the sources. Because what we're going to be doing in this first 2 hours is collecting and really discovering and collecting lots of existing research on your topic. That's really the first goal of research, is to figure out what's been written, what is known about the topic already. So you want to go to Zotero, create that collection folder. You're also going to want to create a folder on your computer where you can store notes and other files. So you want to pull up your computer, start a folder. That folder you should title some name that has to do with the research project. So let's say we're doing a topic on the Italian opera composer Giuseppe Verdi. So I might call this folder Verdi Research First 2 Hours. And I add that first 2 hours because that lets me know later on that these were all of the sources and information that I found in this first 2 hours series of actions, and then I can come back to that and file that later as necessary. But this way I don't have to think about organizing it beyond that. I just dump everything into that first 2 hours folder and sort it out later. This step should take no more than 10 minutes. If you have Zotero already downloaded, this will take you even less time. It should take you just a couple minutes. Okay, that's it for this step. You want to start a folder in your reference manager, such as Zotero, and you want to start a folder on your computer where you can start storing all of these documents. Step 2 is to read about your topic in your course textbook and also find where it's going to be discussed in your class by looking at your syllabus or your course schedule. So take your textbook and look in the table of contents to find where your topic is discussed. Then, once you know where it's being discussed, you can skip to that portion of your textbook and just read about the topic. And what you want to do especially is you want to first skim the chapter that it's a part of and take note of that chapter name because that might be a topic or a search term that you can use. Then look at the specific subheadings that are a part of your topic. Let's say we are studying Giuseppe Verdi. Well, in this textbook here, there's a whole section on Verdi, and the subheadings that I see here are political themes, librettos, working methods, Rigoletto, style, and baritones, later operas, and his reception. These are all potential search topics or potential paper topics that are more refined than what I have already, which is just a topic about Verdi. So if I look at this and I say, well, I'm interested in his style, I see here that under the section on style, there's a subsection of Rigoletto and a subsection of La Traviata. So maybe those are two operas that I would want to look in more detail at. Then I would go to my course schedule after I skim through the discussion in the textbook and find out when we're going to be discussing this topic in our class period. Then if it's relatively soon, I'll want to take very good notes at that time and have some questions already in mind. If it's much later in the term, I might set a meeting to meet with my instructor and just ask if there are any resources I should be aware of or topics that will be particularly interesting or relevant to that topic in the future class period. So that's step number 2. The purpose here is just to get a basic idea of where your topic fits in the class material through the textbook and also on the syllabus. This step should take you only 5 or 10 minutes because you just want to get a basic sense of where this material is occurring in your course. And so don't spend more than 5 or 10 minutes. If your topic ends up being an entire 30-page chapter in your textbook, you need to select a more narrow topic. So look at those subheadings, find something that's maybe a bit more narrow, and you can start zeroing in on a subtopic or a more refined topic for your paper. Step 3 in your first 2 hours of research is to consult an authoritative reference article on your topic. For music history, especially Western classical music history, you'll probably want to start with Grove's Dictionary of Music and Musicians, which is now fully online and a part of the Oxford Music Online reference database. You want to check if your school has access to this database by going to the library website, finding Oxford Music Online, and then searching there. So if you don't have access to that database, then you'll want to move on to the next step. But if you do, you want to start here with Grove. So here's what I recommend doing once you get to Oxford Music Online. Search for your topic and then find perhaps the good article on your topic. In this case, it would be Verdi. Go to that topic, go to that article, and then don't start reading the article. What I want you to do is look at the table of contents and the headings for that article, because this is going to give you a broad outline of the potential areas that your research could go into. And what you'll find is if you're doing research on a very well-known composer, these articles will be very, very long. So you don't want to get bogged down reading the whole article just yet. Instead, what I want you to do is look through and try to get a sense of why your topic is historically significant. You also want to write down the answer to that question in your notes somewhere and write down any headings that you think are particularly interesting to you, something you might want to look into further. The last thing you want to do in this step is to go to the bibliography of this reference article. In the bibliographies that accompany these articles, you will find sources that experts on this topic have deemed to be important important, significant, and authoritative sources on your topic. So you want to use these, you want to find these, collect these, add them to your own bibliography, and use those to start. The whole purpose of research is to use the knowledge of others and, of course, cite it when necessary. And so by doing this, you're actually getting a shortcut to some of the most critical, most authoritative sources on your topic. So make sure you go to that bibliography and collect those sources. If you are using Grove Music Online, there's a bit of a difference or a quirk with their bibliography. It's not alphabetical in order, it's chronological. So the bibliographic references at the beginning of the bibliography will be the oldest references. You want to make sure you get the most recent sources on your topic to know what's going on recently with your topic, and don't only rely on older sources. You'll also see some sources probably in other languages. In the case of Verdi, there will probably be some sources in Italian. Unless you read those languages, you don't need to collect those at this point. So stick with the English sources and the ones that are very recent. This step, going to the reference article, skimming through it, checking the headings and writing down the historical significance and anything else you might want to look into more specifically, should take you about 5 or 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more, but don't get too bogged down in this step. For instance, you could just set a timer for 10 minutes and see where you are at the end of that. And that's the end of this step. Step 4 in your first 2 hours of research on a music history topic is to consult the For Further Reading section of your textbook. Now, what I mean by this, sometimes it's called further resources, but what I mean is the bibliography in your textbook. And oftentimes what textbook authors will do is they will collect the most important sources to know about particular topics. And then typically in the back section of a textbook, they will have all of those sources collected there for you. It's almost like finding a treasure trove of bibliographic references that have already been collected and organized for you. So if you go to, for instance, in this textbook, this is J. Peter Burkholder et al., A History of Western Music by Norton, they have an extensive For Further Reading bibliography. In the latest edition, it is a separate file. It's not in the print edition, but it's a separate file that you can find online. This is great because that file is text searchable. So all you have to do is open up that file, type in the Finder window, type in your search term, and then try to find that section in the For Further Reading section of your textbook, and then look at all of those resources, all of those sources, books, scores, articles, and collect the ones that will be relevant to your topic. So now by the end of step 4, we have actually collected some sources that have been vouched for by scholars through the textbook and also through the Grove article, so that we know that those sources are likely to be valuable and authoritative. We've put all of those in our Zotero folder, and so you should now have, after just a couple steps, a good starter bibliography. And in the next step, we're going to take that bibliography to the next level. Okay, step 5 in your first 2 hours of research on your music history topic is to collect 30 sources, the bibliographic references for 30 sources on your topic. If that sounds scary to you, just hold on. I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions on how to do that. And in fact, I'll give you the outline in this video, but my next video is going to be going in detail and actually demonstrating how to complete this step by finding 30 sources on a topic. So now that you've collected a couple sources through your textbook and through Oxford Music Online, you want to greatly expand your resources on your topic so that you know where to begin doing your research once you dig into it in earnest. But one word of warning before we go on, you're going to start collecting these sources and you may get interested and want to start reading the books that you find or the articles that you find. Hold off on that step. You will have time to read these later. Now you want to be in collection mode. So we want to search far and wide for sources that are relevant to our topic, and you want to simply collect those sources at this point. or even just the bibliographic references for those sources if they're books that you don't have access to yet. So when you collect these 30 sources, you'll know you're done with this step when you have 30 bibliographic sources with all of the relevant information in your Zotero folder or on your bibliography list, and that all of those 30 sources are relevant to your topic in one way or another. So like I said, I'll go into more detail on exactly how to do this in the next video, but for now, let me give you 3 places to look for these sources. First, you want to look at your university library to find scholarly books on your topic. Second, you want to look in scholarly journal databases such as JSTOR to find scholarly articles. Thirdly, you want to search Google Scholar, which is at scholar.google.com. That will give you both articles and books. So what I would recommend you do is set a timer for 15 minutes and see how far you can get in those 15 minutes, how many sources you can get. If you don't get to 30, it's no problem. Just set a timer for another 15 minutes and keep going. Now, 30 is not a magic number, but I find that 30 sources is a great marker to know that you're really starting to get a foundation of knowing what research is out there on your topic. Just a couple final notes on this step. First of all, you should know you do not have to have a source in your possession to include it in your bibliography at this point. It's just a preliminary bibliography. We're going to find those sources in a later step. Number 2 is that this preliminary bibliography is different from the one that will go in your final paper. You may not have 30 sources in your final paper. In the works cited portion of that paper, it will only include those sources that you actually cite. At this point, what we're worried about is just knowing what's out there so you can consider the research. So this will be a different bibliography list than the one that will end up in your paper, though the ones that end up in your paper will likely be drawn from this list. And finally, don't be too picky as to which sources you include at this point. You want to cast a wide net because at a later step, you will sift through those and figure out which ones are the most relevant to your topic, and those are the ones you're going to dig into even more. So for this step, you should take about 15 minutes, maybe a little bit more if it takes you longer. And at the end of it, you will have a list of 30 promising sources for you to start your research. Step 6 in your first 2 hours of research on your music history topic is to go to your library website and order any of the books that are not in your library's website catalog, so that they can start being shipped to you. Now, here's one thing. You can get virtually any book, or it seems like virtually any book, delivered to your library. However, it takes time to do that. And so it's at this point early in your research that you want to get those books moving towards your library so that they arrive in time. So step 6 is very simple. You just want to order any of the books on that list, on that bibliography, that are not in your library bookshelves. That way you can have them in your possession once you're ready to start reading them. Okay, step 7 in your first 2 hours of research on your music history topic is to evaluate your topic for feasibility and adjust it as necessary. So you've been through quite a few steps here. You have organized your files, you have searched for the topic in your textbook and in your course schedule, you've started collecting bibliographic resources from a reference article, from your textbooks for further reading section, and you have now done a more extensive search collecting at least 30 sources, perhaps more, in your searching of your library website, of journal article databases, and of Google Scholar. You should now have a much clearer picture of the boundaries of your topic. You should also have a clearer picture of the subtopics that you might want to focus on in your music history research paper. So it's time now to evaluate what you've learned and make some decisions going forward. Now, this may be something like you've found the subtopic or the collection of incidents or compositions or genre traits or stylistic traits that you really want your paper to dig into, or that you think you might dig into in your paper. Write those down and start sifting future research through those lenses. You might also have found that you got to the end of this and really didn't find enough on your topic. You didn't find enough sources. You didn't find the types of sources that you thought you would. Well, this is an indication. If you've gone through all of these steps and you can't find that information, this is an indication that maybe the topic as you have defined it is not appropriate for a survey level research project. It may be something more like a thesis or senior project level paper where you can do more original research. So you might want to shift your focus to a parallel or a tangential topic, something that will help you prepare to do that research on the topic that you're really interested in. So maybe you do some background research on your topic, or shift it in some way based on what you've found. On the other hand, you might have found way too much material to even manage. This happens oftentimes when your topic is too broad. And so what you want to do in that case is zoom in on the headings, subheadings, subtopics that you've come across in your research in these first 2 hours, and get a sense for the one or two topics that you might want to narrow your focus onto. And this will really help you as you go forward to know what's out there and what is really feasible for your research project. So what have we learned in this video? Well, I've given you a plan for your first 2 hours of research on a music history topic. It's also relevant to other topics, even though I've given the example of a music history research topic, but you can apply this to other courses as well, other research projects. Here are the steps in review. Step 1 is to organize your files. Create a collection in Zotero and a file on your computer where you can place all of your resources here at the beginning. Step 2 is to read about your topic in your course textbook and find where it's going to be discussed in your syllabus. Step 3 is to consult an authoritative reference article on your topic and get an overview of your topic and the subheadings, but then also collect some of those bibliographic resources that have been put there by the scholars on your topic. Step 4 is to go to the bibliography in your textbook, or the for further reading section, and find additional bibliographic sources that are relevant to your topic. Step 5 is to collect at least 30 sources on your topic, creating a preliminary bibliography. Step 6 is to order any books that your library does not have on hand, so that when you are ready to read those books, they've already arrived for you and they're ready to be read. Step 7 is to take a step back and look at what you've learned, evaluate your topic for its feasibility, and then make some decisions moving forward how you want to focus or readjust your research. Okay, the last question is, do you need to do all of these steps in one single time block? And the answer is no, you don't have to, but I would recommend that it is ideal to work in a focused way so that each step along the way you're building up momentum. And if you can take about 2 hours to get these done, I think you will get more done in the end than if you were to break up that 2 hours into 30 minutes one day, 30 minutes next week, 30 minutes the following week. That's because in the intervening times, you will forget the steps that you've completed. You'll maybe forget exactly what trail you were following at that time. So take little breaks in the 2-hour block if you need to. But if you can, I would recommend doing this or as much of this as possible in a single time block. So that's it. That's the plan for your first 2 hours of research on a music history topic. And I want to encourage you, if you follow this plan, you can actually get more accomplished in your research more quickly than you might think. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Be sure to check out the links in the description to this video for further resources. Happy researching.